dukkhapattaca nidukkha bhayapattaca nibbhaya sokapattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear-struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. Friends, with this metta wish, let us focus our mind on the explanation of this meditation discourse called Mahasatipatthana Sutta. Today I thought of talking on the sampajanya, that is clear comprehension. Clear comprehension is divided into four categories, four classes. They are in Pali, Sattaka Sampajanya, Sappaya Sampajanya, Gochara Sampajanya, and Asammoha Sampajanya. Sattaka Sampajanya means the clear comprehension of the purpose. At the very outset we mentioned the fivefold purpose of this practice, and we must remind that ourselves of this fivefold purpose. Constantly we must remind, because we want to be mindful. This sometimes is not very easy, because people, amidst of all other activities, try to meditate, and therefore perhaps they might find it difficult to remember this fivefold purpose of meditation. Let me remind you the five purposes. That is Sattanang Visuddhya, for the purification of being, Soka Paridvanan Samatikkamaya, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, Dukkha Domanasyanang Attangamaya, for overcoming sorrow, grief and despair, and Nyaya Sadhigamaya, to fall into the track, meaning following the path. Nyaya means the system, method of meditation, the method of attaining liberation, the method of Noble Eightfold Path, the method of dependent origination. These are the items or terms of methods, system. Then the fifth is Nibbana Sachikiriyaya. By doing all this, we attain Nibbana. So for the attainment of Nibbana, for overcoming sorrow and lamentation, for overcoming grief and despair, for purification of our mind, for following the path, middle path and dependent origination path, and by following all this, attaining Nibbana. These are the fivefold purpose. So when we meditate, when we practice mindfulness, we must keep these purposes in mind. Why we meditate? We meditate for all these five purposes. To accomplish them, we meditate. then that is called Sataka Sampajanya. Sampajanya means clear comprehension of Atta means purpose. Clear comprehension of the purpose of meditation. Sataka Sampajanya. Second, the Sappaya. Sappaya means suitability. We must ask ourselves, is this practice suitable for achieving those fivefold purpose? That is the question. Not during meditation, but all other time, even when you sit to meditate, when we sit to meditate, very quickly we must recall the purposes and ask ourselves, is this practice suitable for achieving those purposes? Sappai. Sappai means suitable. Then the fourth clear comprehension is gochara. Gochara means domain, the field. Is this field is my mindfulness practice, or should I be in this field? And we must comprehend that what is the field? Field of mindfulness. Field of mindfulness. And that also Satipatthana Gochara. In other places, Buddha said our Gochara, or our domain, our field, is the establishment of mindfulness. Our field is establishment of mindfulness. And then asammoha sampajanya, clear comprehension of the clarity. Sammoha means confusion, asammoha means not confusion or clarity. So we have to be clearly comprehend the clarity itself. We have to have a clear understanding of what we are doing. We are not doing it for any other purpose, and we are not doing it for anything other than this suitable. We don't practice in any other field. We practice this very clearly. So these are the four clear comprehension. Now, to make it even clear, even what you call impact very deeply, I like to mention what Buddha has said when he was explaining this comprehension. So the domain is the sati. Sati, mindfulness, is the domain. Sati sampanya gochara. Gochara means go is cow. Chara means the moving. The cow move in the meadow, in the grassy area, to eat grass. Taken from that simile, that reality, Buddha used the word gochara. The Go means cow, chara means the field where cow moves to eat grass, gochara. Our gochara is mindfulness, and we must keep very clearly in our mind not to drift away from this domain, this field. There is a very beautiful simile, little parable. Buddha used parables, similes, examples to explain the truth, the Dhamma. The parable he used is here. We find it in Samyutta Nikaya that the simile parable is that there was a little quail. Quail is a very tiny little bird, mostly sitting on the clod of mud in the newly plowed field. Suppose there is a rice field. Uh, Most of you might have not seen rice field, but you can assume rice field which needs water and mud. So one day, one quail was sitting on a big clod of mud, basking in the sun. Then hawk came and grabbed this little quail. While being carried away by the hawk in his own claws, this little quail said, today is my unlucky day. Had I been in my own domain, this hawk I can defeat very easily. He will not a match to me, to fight me. I can easily defeat. This big hawk was very delighted to hear these little quails boasting. He was not upset. He said, where is your domain, your ancestors' field? Then he said, that field where you find fresh clods of mud. That is my field. That is my domain. And then Hawk said, okay, I take you there again and put there down. But remember, tomorrow I come back and grab you. So he brought the quail back and put on the paddy field and flew away. Next day, the quail came out sitting on the clot of mud and asked and challenged the hawk. Hawk came stooping down very fast, spreading his big wings. That instant, this quail hid under the clod of mud. The hawk came and looked around, and he could not find him. So hawk was very upset that day, and he beat his breast and flew away with anger, shame, being defeated by this little quail. So Buddha said, this is a story. Buddha said, similarly, if we stay on our domain, That is our field. What is our field? Our field is mindfulness. If we stay on our own field, the hawk is Mara. Mara means defilements, greed, hatred, delusion, disturbances, hindrances, fear, and all these are the armies of Mara. They each and every one of them is a hawk, and they will not come and get us if we clearly understand our own domain, and we must stay there. That is called clear comprehension of the domain. And then clear comprehension of the, the suitability is we must clearly understand what is suitable for developing our mindfulness. What is suitable? You cannot develop your mindfulness by focusing your mind on anything where you cannot see impermanence. Although everything is impermanent, you may take quite a while to know the impermanence of other things where impermanence is not very conspicuous, not very clear. Like you focus your mind on a rock, on a tree, on the earth, on something outside where you don't see the impermanence so clearly. But when you pay attention to something, that is the impermanence in which is very, very clear and you can experience. That is suitable for your mind development of mindfulness. In the mindfulness, you must see rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. Rising and falling you can see not on anything that exists. And this also we must remember, this is a very subtle thing. Rising and falling exist when rises and falls. And we must be able to notice the rising and falling at the time it is rising and falling, not before, not after. For instance, sun is rising and falling. It takes a very long time for us to understand that. Moon is rising and falling. We take also long time. Sometimes we cannot even see the moon to notice rising and falling. Rain is rising and falling. We have to wait until rain comes. What is rising and falling that we can notice is our breath, is our feelings, our perceptions, our thoughts, our consciousness. Each and every one of them is rising and falling. Breath rises when we breathe, falls when we breathe. Breath is moving in and out. We can notice rising and falling. We can see impermanence right there. So this is suitable for gaining mindfulness or insight. Insight into what? Insight into impermanence. We practice vipassana meditation to see impermanence. And we can practice mindfulness to see unsatisfactoriness. We can practice mindfulness to see selflessness. All these are clearly marked in our breath, in our feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. This is our domain. This practice is suitable for that. People ask, in order to get clear comprehension, what we should do. In order to get clear comprehension, we must pay attention, undivided attention, clear attention, unpolluted attention. Attention also has qualities: high quality attention, low quality attention, attention with greed, hatred, and delusion, attention without greed, hatred, and delusion. For instance, this experiment somebody made on a dog salivation. When you ring a bell at meal time, and dog immediately start salivate because he associate his attention with associate the bell with the food. So his attention is on food, on the bell, which arouses his greed to eat. That is attention. You can see a cat pays attention where you can see cats are sitting and sitting and sitting, waiting, paying attention to the movement of a mouse. And at the right moment, he jumps and catches the mouse. Here he pays attention. You can see crane, the big bird sitting, standing on one leg for perhaps hours on in the shallow water, focusing his mind, paying total attention to catch a fish. A fisherman taking the fishing rod, throw the bait, and wait for the fishing rod to move so that he can pull a fish. Like that, even people have attention. But these attentions are not the kind of attention we must develop. We must pay quality attention without greed, hatred, and delusion to notice rising and falling or something that is not there. When the impermanence is, always remember this very subtle point, impermanence is not of impermanence that exists. Impermanence is not something of something existing. Impermanence arises when something arises, or something arises and it immediately vanishes when that something disappears. This is what we learn in dependent origination. When, for instance, when greed arises, pain arises. If greed does not arise, that pain doesn't arise. When the greed exists, pain exists. When greed passes away, pain passes away. So that particular pain does not exist. It arises when greed arises, or hatred arises, or delusion. When it is gone, that pain is no longer there. In order to catch this very subtle thing, we must pay pure, clean, undivided attention, which is called mindful attention. Where can we find this? In our own body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. When we breathe, as we breathe, breath is not one some kind of cylindrical thing. Breath is a particle of very tiny little air bringing oxygen. And when we pay attention, pay attention on our nostrils, we can see very, very subtle changes in the breath. To gain that awareness, we have to pay attention. That is called paying or paying attention, clear attention to understand what is happening. So, in order to understand the suitability, domain, and so forth, we have to have a clear comprehension of our purposes, suitability, and non-delusion, and the feel. We must understand them. Then non-delusion is we must not be confused with regard to our practice. For instance, when we sit to meditate, we, as we mentioned, there are what we call hindrances. I think most of our meditators know there are 5 hindrances. You can add even more hindrances. For instance, you are sitting in a very comfortable, air conditioned room after your meal and you try to meditate. Cushion is comfortable, room is comfortable, the stomach is comfortable, and no noise. Everything is very, very good. And then within very few minutes, you fall asleep. You fall asleep. So you associate this sleep or you attribute this sleep to jhana, concentration. And there you are deluded. Or in meditation, you all of a sudden see bright light. Then you see that is the attainment of enlightenment. And you sometimes feel like body becoming very light and you feel like floating. And you think that is a great achievement and so forth. These what we call red herrings, to divert your attention here and there, to deviate you from the main practice. So we have to be very careful and not to have this confusion. This is called non-delusion. Non-delusion. So we have to understand the non-delusion. And this is called clear comprehension of our postures and practice. The postures these are called minor postures. And we can, I don't think I have time to explain minor postures. Next time I will explain them. But for now, I think, as I said, we should not rush. We must go very slowly. I am keeping in mind those who are practicing meditation and who may not have clear comprehension. So I want to spend little time to explain what clear comprehension is. This particular section is on clear comprehension. So friends, I think I must stop here and want to continue my metta benediction, wishing everybody peace, happiness, and liberation from suffering, especially those